I'm Lee Schneider, and this is the Future Lab. Picture this. You walk into a bookstore that doesn't just sell books. It radiates community energy, where the staff just doesn't recommend titles, they know the genres you love. Where author events aren't just readings, they're cultural happenings. Welcome to Diesel, an independent neighborhood bookstore in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. Some of the authors Diesel has hosted include Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, William Gibson, particularly relevant to the conversation we're about to have, and a recent event with Walter Mosley discussing his latest Easy Rawlings mystery. They're hosting Cory Doctorow on the week that we're recording this episode. I'm delighted to welcome Joey Puente, Diesel's sci-fi specialist, into the Future Lab. Joey, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So tell me a little bit about Diesel. What kind of store is it?
Yeah, so we're a neighborhood bookstore. That's what we like to bill ourselves as, serving the West Side, Santa Monica, Brentwood areas. And we're a general bookstore, so we don't specialize in any specific kind of book. We do the whole gamut, all new books, no used stuff. So we are just booksellers. We want to be people who love books and people who live in the communities in which they are selling the books. And, so it's definitely a conversation with the community around us, as so to speak, of what books get carried and what books get sold, what books come back in, what books don't sell, etc. Mm-hmm. We have been at our current location since 2008. Is when Diesel and Brentwood opened, but Diesel, as far as a entity, has existed since 1989, and with the first store in Emeryville, and then in Oakland, which until last August, existed still in the same spot. It was purchased by the longtime manager and shifted into becoming a different bookstore, East Bay Booksellers. And then last August, it burned down, which was crazy. Yeah. And they found a new location on the same street about a half mile away. So there's still East Bay Booksellers, Diesel 1, basically, still exists in some form, and not owned by the original owners, but by manager Brad. Great guy. And there's been other Diesels throughout history. There was 2 in Malibu, opening in 2003 was the first one in Malibu. And then in 2011, I believe, 2011 was the second Malibu store. And then there's been one in Larkspur, and that was in 2013, around there. And then there was one other one, which is still owned by the original owners in San Diego in the Del Mar area. And they changed their name to Camino Books, but it's the original owners from 1989, from the original Diesel. And then last August, Richard Turner bought this Diesel in Brentwood. And this is the Diesel name still. But everybody who worked here before. I've personally worked at Diesel since 2005. This month actually is my 20th anniversary at Diesel. So
wow.
I like what I do.
I had no idea that long tangled history of
it's
Diesel bookstore.
It's been a journey.
Wow.
And I have done shifts and worked at all the different Diesels throughout the time of Diesel. I put books on the shelves. I've opened the bookstores. I've painted walls, put boxes in my car, driven them to the spots. I've done everything.
This almost demands the question, what keeps you in this? What is the attraction for you?
I love books. I love reading. I love being able to find the right book for the right person at the right time. And that is honestly, one of my great joys is to be able to take disparate, bits of information from people like, hey, what do you like? And like, I like this, 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 this. And I'm like, I know the book that you want to read right now. And it doesn't even have to be about, what kind of books do you like to read? It's more of what do you like in general kind of thing. And I can be like, okay, well, because you told me these things, I believe that this would be the book. And
Mm.
having someone, light up when they see when I tell them about the book that I'm handing them and they're like, this is perfect. This is how did you know? And that's like yeah, yeah. I feel it, like I really feel the connection there. And so many times people come back and they'd be like, that book that you recommended to me was amazing. How did you know that was the book that I needed right now? And it's just, it's it's an art, it's a little bit of science, it's a little bit of, social engineering in a certain way where, I'm building a rapport with somebody and then I'm enthusiastic about something and that enthusiasm translates. And like, so if I'm enthusiastic about something, people will get enthusiastic back. And so there's a little bit, it's like some finesse to it, but yeah, yeah, that's just being able to get people the thing that they will love. I love curating. I curate like
Mm.
everything. So, uh, I like to like make mixtapes. I've always liked making mixtapes, things like that. Just like, okay, here's what's the vibe. What are we doing? Here's what the party's going to be like.
That's
And
fun.
just being able to do that kind of a thing. But, here's a book. It's a different, the same sort of thing. It just works differently.
Well, when as a reader, when you go into a bookstore, seeing those staff picks, whether they're verbally done as you're doing it or there's a little section of staff picks, that's one of the fun things about the bookstore experience, that someone actually has a passion for picking out the book.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If you're left to your own devices, what genres do you read in?
I, I read fantasy. I read sci-fi. I love those genres. I love the fantastical. I love the magical. I love I love the feeling of like of also looking forward and seeing,
Hmm.
what can we look forward to in the world and what can we like it's obviously there's a little bit of escapism for it, but it's also like I live in the real world. Reading books about the real world doesn't super interest me unless it's something really compelling. Uh, I'm more interested in exploring ideas and like big ideas, big things, big worlds.
What's on your staff pick list right now?
Right now, my staff pick list is it's The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman. That
Hmm.
book is one of the most incredible books that I've read recently, and it it's a fantasy novel that made me feel like fantasy can say more and be about more than just being, you know, swords, dragons, wizards, you know, and it's so full of grief and beauty and the loss and the worthiness of loving things that you will lose. And all of that is within a backdrop of a fantasy war with goblins and a military unit of women training giant birds to fight the goblins. Like, so, like, if I say it that way, it sounds crazy. Like, what are you talking about? But it's when you actually get into it, I I honestly forgot that it was written by a person, by a man, and that the main character Galva was not a real woman telling me her experience in the war. That, you
Mm.
know, and so that kind of separation just made that book incredible. And it was one of the I read it and I was just this is a huge moment for me. It gave me the same feeling that I got when the first time I read Patrick Rothfuss, Name of the Wind. And when I read that one for the first time, I got the feeling that oh, this is the moment for fantasy too. It can be very literary. It doesn't have to be about the same sort of thing. It doesn't have to be about the epic journey to slay the dragon. It can be
Yeah.
very, you can have a smaller story with bigger implications and bigger impacts. But you can also be very literary with it, and you can have very uh, your writing can be beautiful, and you don't have to fall to the normal convention kind of thing.
Hmm. What else is on the list?
Other things on the list right now, I'm just thinking to myself, uh, that is in the store. Uh, the other thing is that I think it's a book that's impossible to talk about, but it is so incredibly good. It's called Comfort Me with Apples. It's by Catherine Valente,
Hmm.
and you can't talk about the book because anything you say kind of spoils it in a way. And it's a book that you just have to read and experience. And when you read it, you have to just read it through. You can't look up anything. You can't Google any words that are like, what does that mean? That sounds familiar. You can't, you just have to read it. It's only about 120 pages, so you can do it in a couple hours. And
Yeah.
then you read it, and then you go, I have to talk about this with somebody, but I don't have anyone to talk about it with. So you send like your friend, text all your friends. You're like, download this book right now, read it. We have to talk about it. Don't look up anything. Don't read the jacket. Don't read reviews. Don't look at the back. Just read it. And then you'll start reading it again just because you want to see the things that you missed the first time and to catch it again. And by the time you finish it that second time, your friends will have been finished reading it the first time, and then they're going to start texting you. I mean, then you have a whole group chat going crazy. Uh, and I call it's short but not sweet, and it's a very different book. And to me, it's like a thorn in my mind. I think about it all the time, but I can't articulate it until someone else has read it. It's like kind of like a virus maybe in that way. But yeah, I made all my friends read it, and then they're like, "Why'd you make me read this? That was crazy. That was so good." And now we have to talk about it. And like, yes.
That's great.
And then just to as a swerve, uh, another book on my recommend is Priya's Kitchen Adventures, and that is a world cookbook for kids, for young chefs. So
Hmm.
it's really great because it's got recipes all over the world. And what I love about it is that it gives you pictures steps. So this is what, so many cookbooks just list, right? Even cookbooks for kids just list what you're supposed to do. And this one has pictures for every step. Like, here's what it should look like. Here's what this part should look like. Here's what this part should look like. And then it also gives you instructions on here's how you cut a bell pepper. Here's how you
Hmm.
prep this. Here's how you do spices. Here's how you do garlic. And so many cookbooks just assume that they don't teach you anything about like knife skills or how to work with what you have and et cetera, so on. So I feel it's just such a good cookbook for young people, obviously, to learn cooking who are interested in cooking, but also just adults too who just never really were told and just assumed that, hey, here's how you do it.
So, what got you started in your appreciation of science fiction and fantasy? Was there a book you read as a kid or later, or when
It's
did that
it's
happen?
as far as I can remember, it's what I've been interested in.
Hmm.
Uh, since way back when. Yeah, I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1980. So I remember getting my first computer, like a Tandy, Radio Shack Tandy with
Hmm.
the cartridge things in the slot and plugged into a TV. I think I was 5 or 6 when I got one of those. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, typing. I learned how to change the color of the background. I've always been interested in technology. Uh, my my grandfather is a scientist, and he has always been very also, on the cutting edge of tech and things like that. He always had gadgets, and he would go to China and Japan and Hong Kong all the time when I was growing up, and that was when those places were a center of technology.
Hmm.
Like it's everything cool was made in Japan for the longest time. And he'd bring back all these crazy gadgets and things like that. And, he would show me things that, 8, 9, 10 and blowing my mind. He gave me a Game Boy before they came out in the States, cause he got it from Japan. And because he physically went to Japan and he saw the Game Boy and he brought me one back. And so it's always been a thing. It's always been an interest. It's always been a passion. It's always been part of what I've been doing and who I am. And think I think the first like real sci-fi novel that I read, I was third grade, and it was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I remember reading it. I don't remember anything about it. I don't think I understood a word, but I was fascinated at the same time of the whole idea of like the Nautilus, this uh this ship that is a squid and is a in the time and how funky futuristic that it was, even though I was 8 years old and I really didn't have the kind of perspective that I do now. But it was it was so fascinating to me that these worlds existed, and that's what I wanted to exist within. Yeah.
It's great to think about how a Jules Verne title, what I'm getting at is his worldview, what was mind-blowing at the time is a ship that's like a squid, or even a ship that can go underwater at all and stay underwater for a long, long time. And the way he imagined what was there. It seems like today's science fiction and fantasy people, there's just so much that is already weird. You wonder how they even decide what to write about.
Well, I read somewhere that science fiction is a time capsule. And while as much as it's looking forward into the future, it very much represents our concerns and our anxieties and what we're worried about in the now, right? In the moment. And if you watch a sci-fi movie from the 80s and you watch it today, they have completely different priorities for is an anxiety. Like The Running Man. Have you watched The Running Man recently?
Not recently, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
But so The Running Man opens in the Bakersfield massacre, blah 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 blah. But when he goes to jail, when he goes to prison, the prison camp is called the Wilshire Exclusion Zone. So that's here.
Yeah.
That's I'm in it. I'm in the open air prison area that was in the Running Man. The TV station is the building that they filmed is in Culver City. It used to be the Sony Pictures building. It's the Culver one now, but that was the TV station. That's where everything happened. That's where they started. They put the people in the pods and shot them into the city. So it's like all this area that West LA, which is now one of the most upscale places in Los Angeles, all of that was rubble, ruin, and a prison. And it was gangs on the streets and all these crazy things, and the conversations between the characters, just the office workers, and they're like, pretty soon we're not gonna be able to smoke at work anymore, and it's like, that's interesting. And then they're like, it costs $1 for a bottle of Coke, and you're like, that is also interesting. Like these are that's purposeful, that's intentional. They put that in there to say something. That's not an accident that these people having this conversation in film that is being recorded and is going to be shown. It's like that's somebody thought about that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
what in the future they're going to be really controlling and they're not going to let us smoke at work, and that's a crazy liberty to take away. But as far as now, or within the current context of things, I'm seeing lots of things 10 years ago, very, very big focus on dystopia.
Hmm.
Everything was a dystopian setting, especially for young adult stuff. For stuff for the younger readers was very focused on this kind of these dystopias and the tyrannical rulers and all of these things that are, um, if you think of our current climate, like we're kind of living in that sort of thing. But that was what people were responding to. That was what the time capsule is telling us. This is this is the future we're worried about. Uh, and I think that we're the tastes are shifting a little bit as far as that goes into different subgenres.
I want to ask you about
Yeah.
subgenres, like paranormal fantasy or more positive fantasies or fewer evil kings, or what are you seeing the things trending toward now?
So right now, the biggest thing is romantasy, obviously. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is the the huge genre. I don't know if it's a genre so much as a motif kind of thing, but that's what people that's the popular thing. That's the book talk thing. That's what is getting the big flashy, you know, releases now. That's what the book agents are buying and publishing. But I think that the truth, the deeper story is that's a trend. That's a trend, and that's what's getting people in the door of the bookstore. Like I want to read Akatar because I've heard so much about it. And then they read it and they're like, okay, what do I read next? And you can go to BookTok and get your reading list from there and just be pop books, just boom, 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 boom. It's like it's almost you could write a roadmap. Like you start with Akatar, Court of Thorns and Roses for those not in the know,
Mm-hmm.
Sarah J. Maas. You start with her, and then you go to um, her young adult series, or you go to some. Why can't I think of the book? It's in my head. Um, but you go there's a roadmap. There's a roadmap, and you can follow it, or you can ask, "Hey, I really like Dakotar. What is a good suggestion for me after?" And I can be like, "Well, what did you enjoy about it? What was the thing that you really responded to? Was it, the intrigue? Because we've got have stuff for that. Was it
Mm-hmm.
the love story? Because we've got stuff for that. And but as far as the to as my digression, as far as the true story, I see a huge upswing in queer stories, and especially particularly with horror. There's so many queer writers and writers of color. I think it's a really cool moment to be reading genre. And genre, from all my time in the bookstore, genre used to be a dirty word. And if you got put in genre, the authors did everything they could to not be put in genre. Because once you get put in genre, you never leave. And I think that the stigma on that is kind of wearing off, and there are people who are purposefully, going towards that, wanting to be like, I'm writing genre. I want to be in the genre. And so you've got really cool stories by people who have not been published before traditionally. And just to like Chuck Tingle, for example, I have just because I have the book here, a book on my desk. Chuck Tingle, who went viral for writing unhinged, crazy, uh, erotic short novels, uh, has started writing real novels, and they're all like horror, like actual horror stuff, and they're interesting because he's doing these terrible things to his characters, but there's a tenderness to it, and they're all very focused on like the queerness of the characters is vital, and it's not uh an afterthought. It's not just like I need to plug this in because
Mm-hmm.
it's I have to hit the demo. And it's the no, I am a queer person. I'm writing a queer story. And I think like that's really cool to see. And uh, and then apart from that is the kind of the cozy kind of comfort stories. Um, Top of my list is A Psalm for the Wild Belt by
Mm-hmm.
Becky Chambers. Just fantastic, lovely book. Honestly, top five all time for me.
Hmm.
And I've been seeing like there's more of those kinds of things that are happening, these sort of low stakes, small stories that are very lovely in their own way. Uh, for Psalm for the Wild Belt, it's just a beautiful world that feels like so plausible. We could have this. We could have this world if we just reached out and decided this is what we want. This is the world we want to live in. We could take it. Everything is so plausible. Everything makes so much sense in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the and then as the dark horse of the genre right now, I think is definitely LitRPG. That's what's next. That's what's popping up. And it starts with Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is huge. It's a huge, huge book, huge series. If you haven't, have you heard of it? Do you know about it?
No, I don't. Tell me about
Okay.
it.
So Matt Dinneman, who is the author, in 2020, he started writing it and he was publishing it serialized on Royal Road, a website for these kinds of things for people to publish. And the elevator pitch is that how I explain it to people, it's like imagine Ready Player One and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy put together. And
Mm-hmm.
so page one, world ends, and the survivors of the world ending are basically rounded up, put into a dungeon under the earth, and forced to fight their way through it for the entertainment of the rest of the galaxy as a TV show. And we had Matt in the store recently, and how he puts it is, a guy and his ex-girlfriend's cat are trapped on an alien game show. And I think that's probably the better the better elevator pitch. But for people who are in the know with Hitchhiker's Guide and Ready Player One, like that's the thing that they'll respond to. But for
Mm.
people that are a little outside that genre, the game show one works also, or probably works better. But it's been an interesting thing because it was an online phenomenon because he was self-publishing it and he was getting big and he self-published these books, and then he got picked up by traditional publishing last year for the
Mm.
for the first time. So they've been releasing the original books in hardcover instead of self-publishing them, and so it's catching on. And
Mm.
he's got all these deals in the works. He's got a TV show coming. There's a web comic. There's going to be a graphic novel soon. There's any kind of media thing that you could do. It's going to happen with Carl because that's how passionate the reader base has become, and that was all organic ground floor stuff, right?
Mm.
And that's the seventh book was just published in hardcover last month on the 22nd, and we had him for his only West Coast event for that book, and we had 500 people, and people traveled had a guy who came from Australia to
Hmm.
to be at the event,
Yeah.
which blows my mind. But this is for something that nobody really knew about, or it's like very under the radar, but you're gonna see it everywhere. You're gonna start seeing it. You're gonna be like, oh, Joey told me about that, and and it's also one of those books that people are really passionate about the audiobook because the audiobook experience is very great. The
Mm.
readers are fantastic for that.
I wanted to ask about dystopian worlds and utopian worlds.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big range between, say, William Gibson and Becky Chambers.
Vast gulf. Yes.
What do you think is going on in writers and readers that there is more, I would say, looking at the future in a positive way or creating a role model for the future that looks a bit more fun to live in.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
not in a cool dude OMG way, but in a, this looks workable, kind of alluding to what you were
Yeah,
saying earlier. So
like
why do you think, is that happening? Is there a movement toward that? And why do you think it's happening?
I definitely think that there is a movement towards that, and it's being driven by mainly, I feel, just in this could just be me in my reader bias of what I've experienced and what I've seen. Uh, seems to be driven by queer people writing books, and they're imagining better futures
Mm.
for themselves, right? Or they're imagining the uh, the book that they wish that they had when they were 12, you know,
Mm.
and they had all
Mm.
these questions they didn't know and they didn't have any hope because everything looked, in the media landscape was depressing and full of just negative talk about who you were specifically, and being able to turn the tables on that and be like, I want to be the person that I wish I had when I was young, and having that kind of like that stewardship of the next generation in a way, um, or of just other people in your community to be like, hey, we're in this together. We're the only, ultimately the only thing that is real are other people. Everything else we've made up. It's it's all it's all things that we can change whenever we want. It's
Mm.
not, nobody said that the Supreme Court has to have 9 judges. God didn't say that. That's a rule. That's a thing that we made up. So we could change it. Anytime we could do whatever we want. We just have to decide as, consensus. And so being able to talk to your community in that kind of a way of like, hey, it's not that bad. And, if we have all the means and the technology and the will to make our lives better, we can and we should and we are going to. And in that way, like they say, survival is a radical act. So
Mm.
if you just being able to wake up tomorrow means that you are doing something that the big T, they don't want you to do. They want you to give up, go away, leave them alone.
Mm.
Uh, and so that kind of revolutionary resistance in a way is important for marginalized people to experience. And what is more revolutionary and what is more completely terrifying to someone who rules over fear is that people who are hopeful and unafraid. And
Mm.
ultimately that is important. And I'm in being able to be a small part in that apparatus, be like, hey, have you read Becky Chambers? No? Okay, here you go. Take this. And the if we go back to William Gibson, we have like Neuromancer, we have The Bridge, and those guys are really cool, right? They're stylish. And you go Neil Stevenson, one of my favorite authors, Neil Stevenson. Snow Crash, one of my favorite books. The book I've read the most, possibly ever.
Mm.
And I don't really reread books, but he lampooned it in Snow Crash because hero protagonist. Here we go. The main character is hero protagonist, and he's he's one of the coolest guys in the metaverse. He's top dog on the leaderboard. Everyone wants a piece of him. He's a legend. But in real life, he delivers pizza, right? He lives in a shipping container that's in Baldwin Hills and overlooks LAX. I didn't realize that until my latest reading of it. I was like, oh wow, I know where he lives. I know where all this stuff is, and so that I feel like that's a very straight white guy specific power fantasy of I'm gonna change the world because I'm so cool, and I'm just
Mm.
gonna go in and everyone's gonna do what I say, and where everything is going to be different because I am that powerful with my coolness.
Mm.
And I know that it's not how those books actually go, but the idea that you have the 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 Matrix, right? And you have Keanu Reeves, and you have like this really stylish resistance, and they're super violent, and and but also at the same time, you think about that is that's a story that has that really the Matrix shift was a cultural shift at a
Hmm.
time, and now you look back, you're like, oh, actually, that's a queer allegory. It's been co-opted by certain people, obviously, but both of the directors and the people who wrote
Hmm.
it, they both are trans now, or have always been trans, but out as trans and live as their gender, their true gender, and that colors everything, And even like you think about Fight Club, right? Fight Club, also that kind of very traditional male power fantasy sort of thing. And that was written when Chuck Palahniuk was in the closet and he didn't even admit it to himself that he was gay. And now he's out and he's gay and he's living his true life. But that's also, that's commentary, that's critique. And it's a interesting kind of way to think about like these kinds of ideas and how they're shifting and what the shift is becoming.
That's fascinating. I hadn't thought about it in that framework, so thank you for that. Really interesting. Part of what Diesel does is have author events. And
Hmm.
there have been some big names. By the time this airs, you're going to have Cory Doctorow.
One of my
Uh,
favorites.
so, what among those events has really stuck with you, or you have a few favorites?
The one that really sticks with me right at the moment is the Matt Dinneman one a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
because we rented a theater, we had sold tickets, and it was a lot of work. It was about 2.5, 3 months of our energy culminating in this one night, these couple hours. And uh, I worked 11 hours that day,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, got to the venue, was setting things up, making sure everything, all the contingencies were in place, setting up like the processes of how to get people in the door, get people in their seats, get them their books, get the line organized for the signing after it, and everything. And it really went off almost perfectly. There was a couple hiccups, but they weren't showstoppers, and went, that everyone who bought a ticket, everyone who showed up, everyone who watched, who got to see the event happen live, they had a good time, and
Mm-hmm.
no, uh, no complaints, nothing, nobody, everyone was just so gracious, and it was just really good energy all around, and it was really like like I was exhausted that day, obviously, but it was such an invigorating experience of these people who were, I had people showed up 3 hours early and they're waiting outside the venue. And I'm like, hey guys, like you don't have to be here right now. Like it's okay. I don't want it, it's hot out. You're in, there's not a lot of shade. I'd like you to just, go get some food and come back later. Like, don't worry about, you're going to get in, you're going to get a book, you're going to get it signed. It's okay. Uh, but I would hear them talk to each other and make conversations, people, just strangers having connections because they like the same book. And seeing that happen is really cool. And just seeing seeing a whole family show up. It never happens.
Hmm.
Like, their grandfather, mom and dad, and a kid,
Wow.
intergenerational of, I don't know if I'd let an 8-year-old read the books, but he showed up, he brought,
Mm-hmm.
it was really cool to see that, and see that kind of energy and that kind of passion, that kind of like community meeting, because everyone had something to talk about, and everyone was friends, and even if they'd never met each other, so that was really cool to see.
That sounds great. Yeah, that sounds really great. You have a podcast of your own that you
Yes, yeah,
do.
we have
So tell us a little bit about
Elevenses.
that.
It's called Elevenses, and Elevenses with the Reps, and it is posted at 11 a.m. every Wednesday, uh, on YouTube. And what we have, two or three publisher reps and one bookseller, and they talk about the books that they're excited about for the week. And so you get like each, it's like two or three each, and a lot of the times it's stuff that's coming out or has just come out because we're we're reading things in the future all the time. Like I'm reading stuff now that doesn't come out until 3 months from now at the
Mm.
at the earliest, basically. So I'm the one looking forward always. So by the time something's come out, I'm so ready to talk about it. I felt that way about Psalm for the Wild Build.
Mhm.
I read it 6 months before it came out,
Mm.
and I was losing my mind about it. By the time it came out, I was so excited. It was like I wrote the book. It was like
Hmm.
I need everybody in the world to read this book because this is the book. And we almost had Becky Chambers in for an event, but she for the second book in the series. Uh, but sadly she got sick and she couldn't make it. But she signed everybody's book, which was really great.
Yeah.
But it was it's just that's like an all-timer book for me. Let's come
Hmm.
back to it. But yeah,
This is my wide angle question. What do you think is the state today of science fiction and fantasy writing and publishing?
I think it's really good. Ultimately, I right now we're in the romantasy upswing. We're gonna hit peak romantasy soon, and then the next trend is gonna intercept it on the sine wave of like what's hot and what's not, what have you. I think we're gonna hit the peak romantasy, and then we're gonna get the whatever the new trend is gonna start going up, and I think that trend is going to be dark romance. If
Hmm.
it's which has existed in the indie publishing spaces for a long time, but with uh, Alchemized being published and being such a huge phenomenon of a book, even though it's you know it it's really dark.
Hmm.
It's there's not a lot good happens in there, but the that I feel like that's going to be kind of like what's going to intercept romantasy because it's going to be the that's going to hit mainstream
Hmm.
soon. But I feel like once we get past that, once we go like a level deeper, uh, it's a really good time. It's a really good time because there are people who are getting published, like I said, who have never been published before, like as a group. So we're getting a lot of really cool authors of color, a lot of a lot of queer authors of color because intersections
Mhm.
and all that, and we're getting different stories by different people, and totally we're not totally captive to what is the mainstream any longer. I think that's kind of moving
Hmm.
apart in that way. And there's so many ways to get books now, to get your book published, right?
Hmm.
Um, and well, like I said, Alchemized was fan fiction. I don't know if you know this.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so welcome to class. Alchemized, which is was published 2 weeks ago officially, started its life as Harry Potter fan fiction with a
Hmm.
alternate setting, but characters are were Harry Potter characters, but in a different kind of world, sort of thing. And that got really popular, and so it got picked up, and they're like, okay, you have to make it not Harry Potter. So, and the author she rewrote it and made it not Harry Potter, but the the common knowledge is that it was Hermione fan fiction originally. I don't, I'm not sure how familiar your listeners are with Hermione or shipping culture in general, but Hermione is Draco and Hermione as the main relationship of the characters.
Um,
So it's a the main character is Hermione, and her adversary, love interest, is Draco, but they have different names, it's a different world, different setting, but that's what it is at the core. And but that's also been kind of happening in other spaces. Allie Hazelwood, her first book, The Love Hypothesis, or her first major published book, The Love Hypothesis, started off as fan fiction as well. And uh, there's lots of that's that's where the foot gets in, right? That's where we start.
Mm-hmm.
So when people who know what to look for are looking through these fan fiction websites, and they're like, oh, there's something about this. This is something that we can make something out of, and they're picking it up. They're getting picked up by major publishing houses. You're going mainstream, or or they'll self-publish the books themselves, and then that gets picked up by if you get you catch on to a certain extent, you get picked up by mainstream publishing. So like the indie to mainstream gap has never been smaller. And the people who are in the indie spaces, guess what they are? The people who don't get published by mainstream. So there's definitely, people are looking for it. People are looking for it, and they're finding it, and then it's getting broad appeal. And I think as specifically for genre, it's a really good time to be a genre reader, especially if you like new things and different things and stuff that has not really hit the mainstream and has caught on yet.
Good. That's good to know. It's an optimistic view. Where can people find out more about Diesel, whether they're locals or online?
So dieselbookstore.com is the best place. We are on Instagram at Diesel Bookstore as well. We don't have a Twitter. We're on Blue Sky, dieselbookstore.com at Blue Sky. But we have a newsletter. Sign up for it. We do signed book events all the time. You can pre-order. If there's an author that you are excited about, we might have them come in. You can check our events page, our calendar of events. But all the books that we do, or all the signings that we do, we ship worldwide for anybody who wants a signed book from that author, etc. Right now we've got a Max Miller tasting history signed promotion going on. He's a huge YouTube guy with cooking books. We've been partnering with Taylor Jenkins Reid for her books to get them signed and send those out, and those go all over the world. So we've got a lot of things going on all the time, and so it's the newsletter and our website and the events calendar always got new stuff going on.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. I can talk about books all day, every day, as you can tell. It's my job.
You're in the right line of work.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening to The Future Lab. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you take a moment to leave a rating or review, it helps more people discover the show. For more of my work, you can sign up for my newsletter, 500 Words, or visit leeschneiderbooks.com to explore my books. I'm Lee Schneider. See you next time inside The Future Lab.